we all know it as the tale as old as time, thanks to the beautiful song written by Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. A trendsetter in so many different ways. The first of its kind. And in some ways, the last, for a few reasons, as well as the return of a lot of this Renaissance thing, the return of Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, and a spiritual successor to The Little Mermaid that kept the Disney Renaissance going and solidified the idea. What makes Disney's Beauty and the Beast special, not only on the Disney canon, but also in my heart as well? Hello, my name is Em, and I am on a journey where I am watching all of the Disney animated films in chronological order with my husband and ranking them on a tier list. But before we get into our thoughts and tier list ranking, I like to provide some history, to provide some historical context and fun facts for this project. So, Beauty and the Beast premiered on November 13th, 1991 at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. So, El Capitan was actually a theater that Disney bought themselves. So, I think we will see that quite a few of the Disney movies will be premiering at the El Capitan from now on. The Beauty and the Beast is based on Jean-Marie Le Prince de Mauvai's version of the fairy tale. Thank you, 3 years of French in high school. Jean? Yeah. The film stars Paige O'Hara in her feature film debut as Belle, Robbie Benson as Beast, Richard White as Gaston, who actually has an opera background, which is not surprising at all to anyone who knows opera and stuff. Jerry Orbach as Lumiere, David Ogden Stiers as Cogsworth, Angela Lansbury. I love Angela Lansbury. We didn't cover it on this channel, but she is excellent in Bedknobs and Broomsticks as Mrs. Potts, Bradley Pierce as Chip, Rex Everhart as Maurice, Jesse Corti as LeFou, Joanne Worley as the Wardrobe, which is technically her name. Later, and in the musical, she's Madame de la Grande Bouche, and then Armoire in the official Beauty and the Beast movie series. But we can talk about that because both her and another character have that beautiful joy of not really having a name. Tony Jay as Monsieur Dark, and Kimmy Robertson as the Feather Duster. If you're a fan of the musical, you'd know her name is Babette. If you are a fan of the other movies, she goes by other names. One of them is Fifi, and I don't remember what the other one is. So, the story with Beauty and the Beast, like The Little Mermaid, actually goes back to Walt when he was looking for more stories to adapt after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and the success there. There was an effort to adapt the story twice, once in the 30s and once in the 50s, but the project was abandoned after the plot proved to be too challenging to adapt. Like, specifically in the second act, the 1946 movie film adaptation may have also been a deterrent for wanting to adapt the film. The idea for Beauty and the Beast was revived after Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 1987 as a project for the new London division to work on. If you'd like to know more about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I actually have a video on that, so if you want to watch that. But they created a new London division for that, and so they thought, animation division. So they thought, we could just make a new movie there, and they thought Beauty and the Beast would be perfect. Due to Michael Eisner's insistence, Michael Eisner was the CEO of Disney at the time, Beauty and the Beast was the first Disney animated film to use a screenwriter and a script before storyboarding, with So before this, it was kind of in tandem. So storyboards would go first most often, and then the script would be worked around the storyboards, and kind of a mixture. Like, you'd have, like, a draft of a script, maybe, and then you'd make storyboards with it and based on it. But, like, this is a completely new thing. Full script before storyboarding. And often that's when things would get cut. Rather than getting cut from the script, they'd get cut with storyboarding before animating. It is very rare in Disney's history that they would cut a scene after it had been animated. But there are a few instances. So this is actually the first Disney animated feature to use a completed script before storyboarding, obviously. Linda Wolferton, who was known for children's shows at the time and being a children's show writer, was hired due to her work on a Winnie the Pooh project that was never completed or panned out. Her original script was actually darker and featured no musical numbers. After Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the chairman of the studio, saw the original story reels in 1989, he was not happy with the project and asked for it to start over. John Musker and Ron Clements, who had directed The Little Mermaid, were asked to direct Beauty and the Beast, but they declined because they said they were too tired after Little Mermaid, which is totally valid. Little Mermaid is an undertaking. I mean, directing an animated film is its own beast. Kurt Wise and Gary Trousdale were then hired for their first feature film directing, which they had previously directed Cranium Command for Epcot, which was a film that was shown in Epcot. Jeffrey Katzenberg also asked Alan Menken and Howard Ashman to return to create the musical numbers for the film. However, at this time, Howard Ashman had been diagnosed with AIDS and was slowly progressing and dying from complications with AIDS. Due to this, pre-production was moved from London to New York, where Howard Ashman was living at the time. And it was also during this time that Beast and Belle were expanded, as well as adding the enchanted objects to, like, round out the main cast. Gaston was added to create a real villain in the story as well. By early 1990, Jeffrey Katzenberg had approved their ideas, so storyboarding began for the film once again. At this time, story artists were flown from California to New York for Howard Ashman's approval on the story, but very few in the production staff truly knew the reason why. I think just they kind of kept it under wraps what was going on. If you want to know more about Howard Ashman and, like, his life, especially near the end in Beauty and the Beast, there's a really great documentary on Disney Plus called Howard. It is incredible. I have watched it. It's just such a tribute to his legacy. Jodie Benson, who had voiced Ariel, was originally considered for the role of Belle, but they wanted a more mature voice, so they went with Paige O'Hara, who actually, something interesting about this cast is that most of this cast has more stage experience than screen experience. Other than, like, Robbie Benson, and Bradley Pierce, like, quite a few of the main cast is more known as voice actors or stage people and from the theater world. And so I just find it interesting that this is so much more of, like, a Broadway kind of vibe than a screen personalities vibe, which you will see Disney will change their mind about this. And I believe it starts with Aladdin. So buckle up.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip. With a friend? No way!
We're going to go on a journey with celebrities voicing in Disney's projects. Like we haven't already. But we're going to get a little bit more of it. Beauty and the Beast had only 2 years to be completed rather than the usual 4 years due to the time lost planning the original version. Along with other movies at the time, animation was done in both California and at MGM Studios at Disney World. Specifically, the sequence for Be Our Guest was what they primarily worked on at MGM Studios. So I've talked about this a few times, that MGM Studios kind of supplemented some animation, and so now they're kind of starting to also animate some movies, which is really cool. Along with The Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast uses caps to animate instead of using animation cells. If you want to know a little bit more about caps, watch my Rescuers Down Under video. I kind of explain it a little bit more. What it is essentially is it's using computers to completely kind of get everything together. So they'll scan like the backgrounds and they'll scan the animation and they'll use caps to kind of put it all together and ink and paint. So it just eliminates the need for animation cells. A mixture of caps and CGI was used in the movie, particularly during the Beauty and the Beast waltz scene. So something I actually thought was really good was how they pulled it off, and you'll hear that in my thoughts. The final scene with Belle and Beast in human form. Yes, I know some people say his name is Adam. His name is Beast in this movie. The final scene where they're dancing is actually reused from Sleeping Beauty. If you look closely, you can see that the characters in the background are not in period accurate clothing to the time period that Beauty and the Beast is trying to portray. According to the animators and some staff behind the movie, this is due to production deadlines for Beauty and the Beast because, like I said, they only had 2 years to animate and complete this rather than the normal 4 years. Originally, Be Our Guest was meant to be sung to Maurice, not Belle. After a screening, I assume for the production team, it was suggested that the sequence be changed to be sung for Belle. Angela Lansbury was actually unsure if her voice was able to achieve what was desired for Beauty and the Beast, the song. Alan Menken and Howard Ashman asked for her to try it in one take. So she brought everyone in the studio to tears and nailed it in that one take that she was given. So the song Human Again, which appears in the DVD, like the special edition DVD, I remember having it growing up, as well as the Broadway musical, was cut before animation even began, as the lyric caused timeline issues with the story. So after some lyric tweaks and some things, they put it in the Broadway musical and they put it on the DVD. Can I tell you guys a really cool story from when I did Beauty and the Beast? I don't care if you've responded. I'm going to tell it to you anyway. I did Beauty and the Beast in high school, and when I did it, what we did is we had we had a scrim. A scrim, if you don't know, is like kind of like a hazy kind of, you can kind of see what's going on behind it, but you kind of can't. So during Human Again, we had, of course, the main enchanted objects and then some ensemble enchanted objects who were singing. And then behind the scrim, we had people dressed in their village costumes dancing. And we were dancing kind of in the same way that, and just like they were watching us and kind of being like, oh my gosh, we wish we were human again. You know, it'd be so fun. And that was a really fun concept for it. I don't know if it had already been done before or if my director was like, oh my gosh, this is such a good idea and I'm the only one to have thought of it. But it was a cool concept and I really enjoyed executing it. Something there actually replaced Human Again in the theatrical cut because there was a little hole. Howard Ashman would pass away due to complications from AIDS in March of 1991. Just 8 months before the movie was released, and he was never able to see the finished film, although he was shown an unfinished version. There is a tribute to him at the end of the credits. And I get a little emotional talking about Howard Ashman because he really was an excellent songwriter. Like, in my opinion, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken were like the next Sherman Brothers. And just the way they worked together was just so incredible. And this is coming from someone, like, I love Little Shop of Horrors as well. And I think the way that he creates music is just, that music that connects is just so beautiful. The pop version of Beauty and the Beast, sung by Celine Dion, and I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, Peebo? Yeah, let's go with Peebo. Bryson, that was played over the end credits, became an international hit and peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and even won a Grammy for Best Pop Duo/Group Vocal Performance. The unfinished version of Beauty and the Beast was shown at the New York Film Festival in September of 1991, where it received a 10-minute standing ovation from the audience. It was also screened at the 1992 Cannes Film Festival. Beauty and the Beast made $23.6 million when adjusted for inflation opening weekend, ranking it number 3 in movies that were released that weekend. Eventually, it made $359 million when adjusted for inflation in North America, and $816.6 million when adjusted for inflation worldwide. It was the third most successful film of 1991 in North America. Beauty and the Beast was universally praised by critics for the return to traditional animation ideals, appealing to both children and adults, and a lot of them called it a masterpiece. 3 songs for Beauty and the Beast would be nominated for Best Original Song, which has only happened, this is the first time that it happened at the Oscars. And it would happen subsequently, I think 2 or 3 more times. And then they said, we cap it at 2. You can't do that anymore. Belle, Beauty and the Beast, and Be Our Guest were nominated, with Beauty and the Beast winning Best Original Song. Alan Menken won for Best Original Score, and Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture and Best Sound. Beauty and the Beast was also the first animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture, despite the fact that Gregory Peck tried to lobby for The Jungle Book to be nominated for Best Picture. It did not. At the time, Beauty and the Beast was the animated film with the most nominations at the Oscars. I have no idea if that has changed, but at the time, yeah. In 2002, Beauty and the Beast was chosen to be preserved by the National Film Registry. In 1994, Beauty and the Beast opened on Broadway, which I could actually rave about the musical all day. Like, we have so much time. Like, I would spend so long talking about it, but we don't have that time. We're talking about the movie. So if you want a video on the musical and how it changed Broadway and Disney forever, that's a whole other can of worms, and I'm pretty sure other people have made their own videos about it. So if you want to check that out, feel free. There are 2 direct-to-video sequels that I will be covering later. Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas, which was released in 1997, and Beauty and the Beast, Belle's Magical World in 1998. There's also a TV show called Sing Me a Story with Belle, which aired from 1995 to 1997. Belle's Tales of Friendship was also released in 1999, but I'm not covering it because it's mostly Disney reissuing their shorts with Belle narrating. So I chose not to cover that. Capiche? Great. In March of 2017, the live-action version of Beauty and the Beast was released. I actually saw this movie in theaters. It's the only live-action of Disney that I have seen in theaters. So, yeah, it was a fun experience. So, yeah. This is the first Disney animated movie to have a pop version of one of the songs in the credits. And let me just tell you, this created a monster because you can't escape it in the Disney Renaissance. Listen, you kind of can't escape it continuing modern as well. Like, there has to be some sort of pop song in the credits even now. So, here are my fun facts for Beauty and the Beast. I don't have a lot. I only have 2. So, the story of Beauty and the Beast, which you'll hear about in our thoughts, but I figured I'd put this here. The story of Beauty and the Beast actually takes place over several months. Late summer in the beginning of the movie, fall when Maurice leaves for the festival, Belle being taken prisoner in the winter, and the ending happening in the spring. This is the first Disney princess film to have a male main antagonist. They've all been female up to now. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed my history and my fun facts. And stick around to hear my husband and I's thoughts on Beauty and the Beast. So, we just finished Beauty and the Beast, and we kind of have a lot of thoughts. We talked about a lot of different things throughout this movie. First off, I want to say I've loved this movie ever since I was a kid. I also have loved the musical. I was actually in the musical in high school. I was ensemble, which is chill. It's Beauty and the Beast. I don't know. But I love this movie, and I can kind of quote a lot of it. I mean, you could attest I could quote a lot of it.
You were basically quoting the first quarter of the movie, like, straight through.
I was.
I don't know if you've seen that Pro ZD skit where I guess he watched Peter Pan a lot as a kid.
Uh-huh.
And so, like, he has a person with it not playing towards him, and he's just, like, reciting the entire movie for them. Like,
see, I could have done it without.
voice,
I could have done it
scene
without
for
the
scene.
captions, though, because we do watch things with captions.
Yeah.
But I could have done it without the captions. Like, all of the songs I could
Yeah.
have done without captions. All these things.
I'll have to show you that one after this, because it reminded me of what you were doing.
Yeah. I will be superimposing. I will probably do it now that I've talked about it. But the Maurice raving meme, I will be inserting that right now. So enjoy that.
Everyone knows her father's a lunatic. He was in here tonight, raving. Whoa, slow down, Maurice. Oh!
So I really love Beauty and the Beast. This is probably my favorite of the Disney Renaissance films. And it's very hard to say that because there's a lot of good Disney Renaissance films.
Yeah,
but this
like
might
the Rescuers Down Under. What? It's part of the Renaissance.
I know. It's just, in my opinion, it's like comparing apples to oranges, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
But I really love Beauty and the Beast, and it might be my favorite of the Disney Renaissance, and that's very, very hard competition. But yes, it has a very strong place in my heart. This is your first time watching it all the way through. I want you to talk about your
all the
experiences.
way through. I have seen bits and pieces, and I like know the plot and stuff. And I feel like I might have watched it once or twice as a kid. I just don't remember it. Kind of similar to like when we first watched Sleeping Beauty, not for the channel, but before the channel. It was kind of that similar situation because it was a girl movie, so I never watched it all the way through.
Okay.
But yeah, I did like it. The one thing that I even remember from when I was younger and having watched it is it has a very, very strong soundtrack. I don't think there's a single song that strikes out.
There is in the musical.
Yeah. That's not too good.
not too good. There's just somewhere. There's 2 songs. Don't hate me, people. There are 2 songs that I can feel comfortable skipping on the soundtrack. One of them, this is the musical soundtrack. One of them is No Matter What. You don't know what I'm talking about. Nope. It's not. And depending on how I'm feeling, Maison de Lune, please don't hate me. Please don't hate me.
In the comments.
While I love No Matter What, I have to be in a good mood. Because, yeah, I like this song. I just like, yeah.
But
there's no skips on the movie soundtrack, at least. Like, one thing I will say is I had the DVD growing up with some, let's just say, some add-ins, and they had the original deleted Human Again scene. In a way, I miss the Human Again scene because I watched it on Disney Plus this time, and I kind of miss that Human Again scene. I also remember, I think they might have added...
If I might interject, I don't know what scene you're talking about. Can you tell me what happens in it?
So it's just a silly little song that they sing about how they want to be human again. Like, it's not necessarily necessary, but it is a cool sequence to have in the movie. And it's kind of sandwiched between... I think it's sandwiched in there kind of next to Something There. Somewhere in there.
Okay, somewhere around that part of the movie?
Yes. And I believe there's also a scene at the end of Something There where where Belle teaches the Beast how to read and they read Romeo and Juliet. But I'm not entirely sure because I know in the musical they read King Arthur. And I know that's a part of the musical. But I swear they added that to the special edition DVD. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I'm having a Bedknobs and Broomsticks moment. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I recently found out that the DVD Bedknobs and Broomsticks is an extended version of Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And so really? I've been watching on Disney Plus the wrong version of Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And that is why Bedknobs and Broomsticks has always felt shorter to me when I've watched it on Disney Plus. Because it is. So I feel like I might be misremembering because I have not watched my parents' DVD. Maybe I'll discover in my facts. But anyway, something that we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about a few things, actually. One thing. I want to talk about Belle's...
Before we run off, I didn't finish about the music.
You finished about the music.
I was going to say, I don't think any of them really struck out. Mm-hmm. The 3 standouts are the 3 standouts probably everyone thinks of. Beauty and the Beast. Tale as Old as Time.
Beauty and the Beast. It's just
I was like, I thought that's what it was called, is Beauty and the Beast. And then Be Our Guest, of course, and Gaston. Mm-hmm. I feel like are the 3, like, songs everyone knows about it.
What about Belle?
Yeah, that one's good. But I feel like those 3 are the known ones. Like, if you think of Beauty and the Beast, you think of one of those 3 songs. Uh-huh. The other ones are still fantastic, though.
I have a really big soft spot in my heart for Belle Reprise. Mm-hmm. I kind of really adore Belle Reprise. Okay. Are you done talking about the music?
I mean, I was just going to talk about that and say also Kill the Beast is also very good.
I think that's the mob song.
Is that what it's called?
The mob song.
I don't know what it's properly called, but that's the main lyric they use as a chorus.
Is that it? You're done?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. First thing I want to talk about is age. I always thought Belle was 16, but I know that a lot of the other princesses, I don't know, maybe I feel like I'm not the only one with the perception that Belle is 16. However, I don't think that Belle is 16 because Beast is supposed to be 21. So I think she's in like early 20s, late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, well, because that was kind of one thing I observed, right? Is like, granted, it's fiction. We don't need to read too much into the physiology and the actually part of it. But, like, Maurice is fairly old for Belle to only be a teenager or in early 20s. Like, he's not graying, he's grayed.
Yeah, so I could see him, maybe the oldest he is late, the youngest, youngest is like late 50s.
Yeah, I would
and
say
that's
being
entirely possible. That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's not possible. But I do think that she might be in her early 20s. Just like Beast is supposed to be 21.
Yeah.
Which is something I guess I've missed.
Yeah,
because it talks about in the intro. Okay, here's the thing. We kind of debated this because we couldn't fully remember. Because they say it's been 10 years since the curse was placed. And in the intro, it says his 21st year. And I believe it's his 21st year of life.
But that's kind of weird because, like, the intro kind of makes it sound like, you know, he's the prince, that he's older because his parents aren't around, right? So it kind of...
Well, but they portray him looking kind of young.
Young, but he's still kind of grown of sorts. So, I mean, it might be just one of those things that we're reading a bit too much into his exact
I think
age.
we are.
But, like, I feel like that, if I were to critique the story, it is a nitpick on that. Some of that part is a little bit vague. And it was another thing I also pointed out is, like, you know, if it has only been 10 years, I mean, at minimum, Maurice, but, you know, a lot of the other villagers probably still remember the prince being the prince. And so it's kind of weird that they don't really process that it's the castle.
You know what? I think we missed this part, but I think it does talk about in the intro how leaving them to be forgotten. So I think it does say something like that. So I think there's an element of the entire monarchy being forgotten in that moment, or just the element of the monarchy. So, like, maybe in the town they're like, hey, didn't we have, like, a monarchy at one point? Do you ever know what happened to that? So, like, forgetting that the monarchy still exists.
Well, we also talked about a few other ideas. One is like that, or the other part we talked about was, because, like, I mean, as you see in the end of the movie, the curse obviously physically affected the castle in some way. I wouldn't be surprised if it affected the countryside around the castle. But the other thing I was also thinking of is, like, maybe the villagers already know to some degree about the beast. I mean, obviously they think Maurice is crazy when he's talking about it. So, like, I wonder if it's kind of like an open secret that something horrible happened at the castle and we just don't talk about it. You know? That was kind of another way I was thinking. Like, not that they've been magically forced to forget about it, but that the townspeople would rather just put it in the past and not worry about it.
What if you're wrong and it talks about it in the intro?
I was like, we may need to watch the intro again, but I feel like I don't remember it saying something like that, which is fine. You know, some stuff can be left to the imagination, but, you know, sometimes it's also like, I feel like this maybe could have been better communicated. Like, even if it does say it in the intro, I feel like there's a lot of confusion that comes from that in the story itself that maybe even could be slightly addressed. You know, like, even if it's a line like Gaston has the mirror, right? And he's looking into it and he sees the beast and he's like, "Oh, the beast! He's at the abandoned castle, or the old castle. We must go slay the beast." And kind of like, even just something like that to kind of like press that the townspeople are aware there is the castle. The castle is implied to be relatively close to the village. Relatively, by horseback, right? So, like, I don't know. I feel like that is kind of like a question that is begged, if that makes sense. It's not really a mark against the plot, because the main plot doesn't really care about that. But it is still something, if I were nitpicking at the plot, isn't really communicated.
Going back to Belle's age being like early 20s-ish. I feel like Gaston's middle age for shizzle.
At least 30.
That
Maybe. Oh no, doesn't it say he's like 26 or something?
no. It does not say his exact age.
I feel like it does.
I
his
don't
age.
I don't
He's
think
in his
it does.
20s or something.
I don't think it does.
Look at that boy.
Okay, you can look it up. But yikes. Anyway, I'm kind of going to move on for a little bit and talk about something else while he does his research. I would like to say, and I need to dispel this. Belle does not have Stockholm Syndrome. And I hate that I have to do this. Almost every single Disney princess, Belle does not have Stockholm Syndrome. So let me kind of give you my reasoning. So Stockholm Syndrome is basically, if you don't know, it's basically when you fall in love with your captor. It's like a whole psychological thing. I've heard stuff saying that it might not necessarily be psychologically sound. But I digress. And so, or like you build a bond with your captor. So here's my thing. If the Beast was actually feeling like he had captured Belle, she would not have had, or if she was under the spell of Stockholm Syndrome, one, he would not have let her go. Near the end of the movie when she realized her father was in trouble. And two, she would not have wanted to go. Do you have an answer on Gaston's age?
Okay, so I'm still looking for a specific source on it. Allegedly 25 years old. Now, it says that it comes not from the movie itself, but from extra movie works. Same with Belle's age. She is written as 17, is what it says.
Maybe that's where I got the idea from, but I don't necessarily think the Disney adaptation is doing that.
Well, I was going to say, in the case of Belle, it is from production notes for the movie. There was a cut scene that was going to be about her 17th birthday. So she is 7, or at least was intended to be 17. She may not actually, because, this is cut information. So obviously it's not communicated, it may not mean anything to the final product. But at least if we are taking it at some face value for an approximate age, Belle is 17.
Okay.
Gaston is just kind of like, dude, trust me, I'm still looking for this.
So I'm going to say this. Please do not clip this. Please do not call me insane names on the internet. 17 and 21 is not that bad. When we're talking about not modern age of consent. When we're talking about the time period that this is set in, 17 and 21 is not that bad. Okay? Hold in your gasps. Because we're taking in historical context.
Okay, sorry to interject. I understand, and I agree that can be shocking sometimes, a little bit at least. But would you take 17 versus 25?
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Anyway. So then, what else did we talk? So, Stockholm Syndrome, yes. So, back to my point. Since the Beast let Belle go near the end of the movie, close to the climax, I do not believe that is Stockholm Syndrome. And the fact that she wanted to leave after falling in love with him. So anyway, Stockholm Syndrome. So I think that because Belle wanted to leave, after she had fallen in love with him and all that jazz, I just don't believe that Stockholm Syndrome, I'm sorry, you can fall in love with someone pretty decently quickly and bond together. I mean, we did. I would say we kind of fell in love with each other, and you could argue things, and you could call us stupid, and you could say, oh my gosh, you two are so stupid, and never watch the channel again. But I'd say that it doesn't take long to know that you love someone, but that doesn't mean that you don't stay in a relationship, like I've talked about in like almost every single one of these Disney princess movies, you can foster a bond with one another while in a relationship. You still can get in a relationship quickly and still foster a long-term bond with one another. We basically fell in love over the course of a week. And you could say that we weren't in love. I'm going to argue with you. But we grew that bond over a year. We did not get married for over a year after we met and started dating. So that's my thing, is I'm like, with these Disney movies, some of them at the end, we don't see them get married. And then the other thing that I have to say to you is this is a fairy tale. You know? Nothing's wrong with the span of time in a fairy tale. We kind of said that the implication for Beauty and the Beast is upwards of a month, but we also don't know. You know? I could see Beauty and the Beast taking place over a month, but we don't know. It could be the entire winter season. Actually, technically, it is the entire winter season, because guess what? Belle's Enchanted Christmas gets stuck right in the middle. It's a midquel. Midquel. Yeah. So technically, if you can fit an entire movie in the middle of the movie, then it is longer than a month.
That's true.
Anyway. Was there something else we wanted? Is that it? On critiques? Or just commentary? I feel like I really, like... Oh, here's the last thing. So, I've been beginning to notice the CGI usage in, these movies. I hate it. Thanks, I hate it. Because sometimes it's really obvious and kind of just like, it's there. But in the ballroom scene, it's very elevated. It honestly, I think it elevates the scene, and the scene would not be as good without the background being CGI. Does that make sense? Like, it creates that big, spacious ballroom vibe that you want.
I think it's also the reflective flooring could not easily be pulled off on hand. That gets done in CGI.
Mm-hmm. I think that beautiful chandelier, I think just, like, the 3D dimensional things that happen with that. Yeah. Oh, yes. The beginning of the movie with the pseudo multiplane camera shot. Gorgeous. 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 I really liked it because I know they don't use a multiplane camera anymore. Are you still trying to find an definitive answer on Gaston's age?
Yeah. I found a wiki that says it, but guess what? No source.
Which wiki?
Ironically, the only one that ever has his age, and probably what the AI pulled from, Death Battle Wiki. So the source could have just been made up. But 25 does sound reasonable to me.
Battle Wiki?
Yes.
I know there is a wiki about Disney kill count.
Oh, no,
So if you're ever curious, do like the Disney kill count wiki, because it goes movie by movie with the Disney kill count. It's kind of crazy.
Here's another one that says he's 25, but guess what?
Still no source. Okay. So, yeah, I liked the pseudo multiplane camera at the end. At the beginning. Yeah, There's so much to say about this movie. Like, Alan Menken's score is insane. And I forgot to say this in my Beauty and the Beast video. No, sorry. My Little Mermaid video, because I didn't know it at the time that I recorded that. But The Little Mermaid was his first score that he ever composed. Before that, he had only composed, like, musical pieces and songs in musicals. But he'd always composed his musical scores. So this was his first time actually composing a film score. How cool is that? That was The Little Mermaid was his first time composing an actual film score. So this is only his second time composing a film score.
So the second time composing a film score. Mm-hmm. Ever?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think he does a bang-up job.
I think so too. It's good music.
And yeah, yeah, I really, really do like this movie. I think it's a really good movie. Continuing the Disney Renaissance. Continuing the fairy tale movie vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's also just a good movie.
I think it's going in S tier. I don't know.
I would say on a very low minimum, top of A, if not.
Oh, no, honey, it's going in S.
Well, I was saying, if you're letting my nitpicks be real detractions.
What are your nitpicks?
The ones that they've talked about like age and time and timeline and the castle. And
I just don't think... I think you just didn't pay attention at the beginning. I have to think about my S tier. It might be my second in S tier. You know?
That's quite high.
I know. I really love Beauty and the Beast.
I didn't know you liked it that much.
I really do love Beauty and the Beast. I don't think I advertise much that I really love Beauty and the Beast, but like, I guess I didn't realize how much I loved Beauty and the Beast until I sat down and watched it again, and I was like, oh, heck yeah, this is like one of the greatest movies of all time. Yeah, I really do love Beauty and the Beast. I don't really have any notes to say about it. Like, I don't have any critiques. The only critiques I really have are the perceptions of it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, everything about it is beautiful. The score, I mean, this is Howard Ashman's last, like, fully composed movie. I know that he worked on Aladdin a bit, but not fully. So, yeah, yeah.
Be our guest, be our guest, put our service to the test. Tie your napkin round your neck and... what's the next line?
Sherry and we provide the rest.
That part. Anywho, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If we don't get 3 likes, then I'm gonna cancel the whole series. It'll all be over. She can still do it, but I'm canceling it. I'm throwing it all out.
So you're just not gonna do it anymore?
Yep, I'm gonna give up. I'm gonna immediately give up. We're gonna go home. We need 3 likes.
So I don't really care about that, but I am trying to get to 200 subscribers by my 1-year YouTube anniversary in late August. So if you want to help me and you like what's going on here, and you like animation and animation history, I'd recommend sticking around and subscribing because we do have a lot of fun here. So, yeah.
You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.